Well, good morning, my friend, and welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. It's good to have you along with me today. Monday morning, August the 18th, and excited about what God did yesterday here at our church. Boy, what a great crowd we had, both morning and night. God worked in a special way yesterday. Several people rededicated their lives to the Lord yesterday in the services, and the altars were filled. People saved, people baptized, and it's exciting seeing what God can still do in these days. We look at these days and we see them as tougher days, but I'm thankful that we serve a God who can show us that He's still God in these times and how we need to stay busy. Now, this week we start our missions conference on Wednesday night, and I'm looking forward to that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then soul winning on Saturday, a big day of soul winning, and then go back out on Sunday, finish it out all day Sunday. Looking forward to just a great time seeing what God's going to do in our church. And I'd encourage you, wherever you are, let's be faithful as we end out the month of August. Two more weeks, I think. Yeah, 2 more Sundays to go. And boy, how we need to do what we can to see these this month end out in a great way. Let's do that. How about that? Would you join me? Let's work hard in making August a great month. That way we can get right into the month of September and have a great time in the fall trying to see God do something great. Well, today I want to read to you from Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse 2. The scripture says, "And he said unto them, I'm 120 years old this day." That's Moses now. And he says, "I can no more go out and come in. Also, the Lord has said to me, thou shalt not go over this Jordan." Now, I see a sad statement in this verse that reminds me of many of the older people, especially, I say older people, the older preachers who are no longer able to pastor or preach. Moses said, "I can no more go out and come in." Age finally caught up to Moses, as much as he did not like it. The days when he led Israel forward to journey and to battle were now gone. The energy he once had was no longer there. The vibrant health had turned into days of continual ailments and kept him from going out and coming in. Wrinkled skin had replaced the youthful look. A limp had replaced the swiftness of running. A humpback had replaced the strength to do anything he put his mind to do. Broken down knees had replaced the strength of legs to climb any mountain and run any race. You see, the warrior everyone once looked to for courage was now no longer able to go out or to come in. But hold on. Before you put this old veteran out to pasture or send him to the glue factory, this old veteran still has great use for the battle. Those who are able to go out, who are able to go out and come in, ought to run to the old grizzled veteran and pick his brain about God's power, how to fight the battles, and how to live on the victory side. To Joshua's credit, that is what he did. And I believe that is why God used him to become the next great leader of Israel, because he didn't put Moses out to pasture. When Moses was no longer able to go out or come in and Joshua led the troops, Joshua still ran to the old veteran and said, "What do I do in this stage? What's the next? What do I do right now?" And that's the secret to making it happen. Now, my friend, it is easy to want to run to the youthful preacher who understands the lingo of the day. And it's easy to be attracted to youth that seems to have a bright future. It's easy to want to be around the up-and-coming preacher who is wanted by the large conferences to preach to the larger crowds. But I want to remind you that there's an old veteran preacher who's been there and done that. He is no longer able to go out and to come in like he once used to do. He no longer has the health that helped him build the great church and preach week in and week out around the country. But before you run to the young buck, you might ought to run to the old veteran who's more valuable because of his mind and what he knows. His mind is still as youthful as it's always been, but now the youthfulness of mind has added the years of wisdom that you'd be foolish to ignore. Now I want to address 2 things about this great truth. First, don't forsake the age because they no longer can do what the youth can do. I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't consider myself old, but I'm not as young as I used to be. But I still feel I have many more productive years to go. One thing that I have purposely done in my life from youth to this day is I spend time with the older men, asking them how to do what I want to do. These older preachers can no longer do what they once did. They have a plethora of wisdom to gain from, instead of setting them aside and running to the younger man who can quote cute cliches but has yet to build anything. The wisdom of the aged won't come to you. You must go to them and ask. Second, if you are one who can no longer come in or go out, don't ignore those who are trying to gain your wisdom. You may feel that you don't have much to offer, but your mind is of great importance to the work of the Lord. When a younger preacher reaches out to you, reach back to him and help. God's given you years of wisdom, not to hide, but to use and encourage the help of the younger generation to do what you have already done. I want to give you two men that I think that men would be wise to run to. I think of Dr. Bob Gray Sr., still alive, pastor of the great Longview Baptist Temple. Now he's still traveling some, but years of experience that people are ignoring this man because some young bucks don't like him. Let these young bucks who wear their tight breeches and look more like the world than they do God, let them say what they're going to say. Let me tell you something. There's something about the aged. They have wisdom. I think of Dr. Bob Smith down to Arlington, Texas area. What a man of wisdom. Yet these men sit beside themselves, and many of the young bucks have forsaken them because they just don't want to be around. They want all these young guys running around who've compromised soul winning, and their churches are dying instead of going to men who built something. I remember years ago, I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I had a tour group with me, and we wanted to go by to see Dr. Lee Roberson. And I remember I think at that time, I think Dr. Roberson was in his 80s. And I remember I took the group, we went over to Highland Park, and I asked, we couldn't, it'd been years since I'd been there. And I'd kind of forgotten I didn't know where his office was now. And so I saw a janitor outside, and I went over to the janitor and said, "Hey," I said, "do you know where Dr. Roberson is?" Now, there was another preacher in town whose name was Roberson, pretty well-known guy, but he's no longer in the ministry. And he said, "Oh, you mean that guy across?" I said, No. Dr. Roberson. Dr. Lee Roberson, the one who built this great church here, the one that built these buildings that you're trying to clean. That guy. Yeah, I said, he's not been pastor there for a while, but him. He goes, "Oh, you mean that old man in the office?" Man, that broke my heart. Because here's Dr. Roberson sitting in that office with all that wisdom, and those college students, and that pastor. Let me tell you something. That pastor was an idiot. That he was an idiot because he let Dr. Roberson sit in the office instead of championing him before the church. That pastor would have been, and by the way, probably that church wouldn't have been closed down if that pastor would have listened to Dr. Roberson and would have championed him. But because he thought he knew better than the older pastor and wanted to run with the young bucks, he put Dr. Roberson out to pastor, per se, in some little office in a corner somewhere. And I remember when I walked into Dr. Roberson's office, Dr. Roberson, as classy as he always was, "Oh, Brother Donnelly, how you doing?" I brought in, I said, "I want to introduce you to the tour group I'm taking for the college." And he got to see them. He talked to us for a while. He prayed with us. He gave each one of the young men a book to read. And let me tell you something. There was something special about it. Now, I'm afraid we've allowed too many of the older preachers just to kind of die off the scene. Their health isn't what it used to be. They can't do what they once used to do, but they have wisdom. And the worst thing we can do is to let those men go out to pasture and never again. But if you're one of those older men, don't you hide. Don't you run off the pasture because, well, no one's coming to me. You stay faithful. You be an example to us. Show us how to do it. Show us how to die right, because that's what it ought to be. It ought to be people who say, I'm going to live right and I'm going to die right. I may not have the age, I may not have the health I once used to have, but I'm going to push myself as much as I can. I'd rather push myself into the grave than to ease myself and live a long life and never do anything with my life. My friend, there is a real heaven. That's why I'm not afraid to push myself into the grave. You say, why? Because if I push myself in the grave, I'm going to be walking on the street of gold up in heaven. Now, I'm just one of those believers. If you keep moving, you're going to live longer than if you sit and rot. So let's stay busy. Let's work hard. Let's do what's right. Let's ask these old men, hey, what's your wisdom? What do you think I ought to do? How do I handle this? And you're going to find those men have a lot of wisdom that can help you if you will just go to them. Well, I hope this is a help to you today. Now, let me remind you, be good to everyone. Everyone's having